Truth tables is a scheme of recording all possible values that may be assigned to give a preposition and to any propositions that may be formed from them by the use of the connectives. And that is the truth table. That is the truth table. Conjunction, disjunction, implication, and equivalence. So if P and Q, P and Q, that is the symbol of and, P and Q. T, tautology form that T is a name by tautology and F is a name for form. So P and Q, and that is the form, tautology form, tautology form, and form for form. The disjunction P and Q, tautology kung imong naobserbaran lahi ra siya dire sa conjunction ug ang disjunction. Kaya ang conjunction T tapos F na siya dire, tapos ang disjunction kay T tapos F ang tunga tapos T, tapos sa ubos F T tapos ang sa conjunction F T F, tapos dire pareha na sila sa last puros F. Og ang implication P and Q, and P is implied at Q. So T F T and pareha na sila tanan dire, silang tulo puros na sila F. Ang equivalence P F and then Q. So T F F og F T. So ang equivalence may lahi ra sa dire sa last, ang tulo pareha sila F. Muna ang truth table kini tulo. Pero pangalan na siya og conjunction, symbols isa, muna ang symbol sa conjunction, din ang symbol sa disjunction, symbol sa implication o symbol sa equivalence. Tautology, if it is whenever it can be shown that the propositions formed by connectives is true for all possible true values. For example, show that tautology, if it is whether when it can be shown that the proposition formed by connectives is true for all possible truth values. For example, shown that the P is if then Q. So if and then P is in Q, and that is the tautology. For example, P Q or Q or P Q P if then implies if then Q, and Q implies IP implies Q, and equivalent to P. Okay, so that is the form of T F F, the Q T F or P F T or Q F T P implies F Q T, the form of T F T and that is the TFTT and TTTT. So derive implications and rules of inference. That is derive of implications and rules of inference. The Q im, the Q implies if then P, that is called converse. If Q implies if Q implies the P, it is called a converse. And or Q implies or P implies or Q, that is called inverse. This one is converse and that is one inverse. Or Q implies P, that is called contrapositive. Or Q implies if the P, that is the contrapositive. Other example. If a car can run, then it has a gasoline in stock. If a car can run, then it is gasoline in its tank. Converse, if a car has a gasoline in its tank, then it can run. If this statement necessary is true. Inverse, the converse, if a car has a gasoline in its tank, then it can run. It is the statement is true. Inverse, if a car cannot run, then it does not have a gasoline in its tank. It is statement is necessarily true. So tama ba siya? Kung ang sakyanan dili mo dagan, so wala gyud siya gasolina sa iyang tangke. So that is true. Contrapositive, the sentence of contrapositive. If a car does not have a gasoline in its tank, then it cannot run. So baliktad na siya. Baliktad na siya ang contrapositive. Bali-bali ra niyang mga statement. So muna ang mga example statement sa derived implication and rules of inference. Rule of implication, deductive inference, rule of detachment. Number 1, rule of detachment. For example, given an implication, if you get 95 in the final exam in this subject, then you will receive a 95 as grade. Now, you got 95 in the final exam, you would infer or deduce that you will receive a 95 as your grade. Rule of detachment. So P implies if the Q and P is equal to Q. There are three rules of implication and deductive inference. Number 1, rule of detachment. Number 2, rule of syllogism, and number 3 is contrapositive. Rule of detachment. Given an implication, if you get 95 in the final exam in this subject, then you will receive a 95 as grade. Now, you can get 95 in the final exam. You would infer or deduce that you will receive a 95 as your grade. Rule of detachments. For example, like this. P implies of Q. So P is equal to Q because P implies Q. That is the example of rule of detachment. Example of rule in syllogism. That is the example of rule of syllogism or chain rule. P implies of Q, so Q implies of R. So that's why P implies of R, because P implies of Q and Q implies of R. So that's why P implies of R. So that is the example of rule of syllogism or chain rule. The P implies of Q and kining Q nag-implies sa R. So directly P implies R. Kay ga-implies ram gyapon ang P sa Q. Yang Q ga-implies R. So P imply R. So that is the example of role of syllogism or chain role. And the last is contrapositive. The example of contrapositive: P, open parenthesis, P implies Q, close parenthesis, or equivalent of Q are not implies or P implies or P. So P implies of Q or equivalent or Q implies or P. So that's why P implies Q. And that is the example of contrapositive. And now, inferring new statement. The knowledge of the different statement and reasoning will help you in the process of inferring new statement from already accepted statement. This can be illustrated by working out on a problem. For example, in insurance company, Mr. Cruz and Mr. Reyes and Mr. Santos work as actuarial, lawyer, and promotion manager. Determine the occupation of each man based on the following clues. The office of the promotion manager and the lawyer are on the first floor. Letter B. Mr. Reyes has to use the elevator in going to his office. And C. Mr. Santos and the promotions managers are good friends. Solution. To solve this problem, we start with the given clues and infer some statement from this. From the first clue, we can infer that the promotion manager and the lawyer do not need to the elevator to go their office, because this new statement and the second clue allow us to make the statement that Mr. Reyes is neither the promotions manager nor the lawyer. If Mr. Reyes cannot be the promotion manager and cannot be a lawyer, he must be the actuarian. The third clue states that Mr. Santos and the promotions managers are good friends. This statement implies that Mr. Santos is not the promotion manager. If Mr. Santos is not the promotion manager and Mr. Reyes is the actuarian, then Mr. Cruz must in fact that the promotion manager. This leaves only one possibility, namely that Mr. Santos is in fact the lawyer. So, and that's all my report in mathematical reasoning. Hope you understand, and thank you.